Angela walked down the stairs to the front of her small apartment building, like she did every morning. The air was quiet, the sun just rising. She opened the old metal mailbox and found a single envelope inside. It had her name on it, written in a careful hand, not printed. She went back upstairs and sat at her small kitchen table. Slowly, she opened the envelope. Inside was a wedding invitation. Her heart skipped. "You are invited to the wedding of Emily Sanders, daughter of Daniel and Tasha Sanders." She read the line again, then again. Daughter of Daniel and Tasha Sanders. Angela stared at the paper. Her fingers started to shake. Where was her name? She flipped the card over, checked the envelope again. Her name was there, yes, but only handwritten on the outside. Not part of the printed invitation, not part of the family. For a few seconds, she couldn't breathe. Her eyes blurred. Was this a mistake? A misprint? Some kind of mix-up? But the names were clear. Her ex-husband, Daniel, his wife, Tasha, together, listed as the parents of her daughter. Angela felt like someone had taken the floor out from under her. The invite felt heavier than it should. Her hands trembled as she held it. She stood up and walked to the hallway, the invitation still in her grip. The walls were quiet. The hallway was dim, only lit by soft sunlight coming through a nearby window. She leaned against the wall, staring at nothing, clutching the invitation like it was bad news, like it was something awful, like a death notice. Her mouth was dry. Her heart was loud in her chest. She thought of Emily as a baby, wrapped in a soft pink blanket, holding her finger with tiny hands. Now, her name wasn't even on the invitation. Just Daniel, just Tasha. Angela stood there alone, the hallway silent, her body still. The envelope slipped from her hand and landed on the floor with a soft sound, but she didn't move. Angela sat quietly in her small apartment, her hands slowly running over the fabric of a delicate gift she was making for Emily. It wasn't much, just a handmade quilt, stitched together with care, every square representing a memory from Emily's childhood. Angela had always worked with her hands, creating things for her daughter, but this quilt felt different. It was personal, something from her heart, a gift to remind Emily of the love that had always been there, even when it seemed invisible. She sighed, her mind drifting back to the years when Emily was young, back to the time when everything was so different. It had been just the two of them for most of Emily's life. Angela had never expected Daniel to leave, but he had. After years of marriage, he walked away, without looking back. Emily had been just a little girl when her father packed his things and left for good. The years that followed were hard. Angela worked long shifts as a nurse, but it was never enough. There were months when the bills didn't get paid on time, and times when Emily's lunch was just a sandwich because there wasn't enough for more. Angela would go to bed hungry some nights, trying to make sure Emily had enough to eat, but she never complained. She couldn't. She just kept going, pushing through, because that's what mothers do. The sleepless nights were the hardest. She would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how she was going to make it through the next day. But she never showed it to Emily. Every morning, she smiled and made breakfast, sent Emily off to school, and went to work, doing what she had to do. Things weren't perfect, but they had each other, and that was enough. Then, when Emily was a teenager, Daniel came back into their lives. He had remarried, and his new wife, Tasha, was everything Angela wasn't. Tasha was polished, well-dressed, always in control. She came from money, and Daniel was now part of that world. It was clear that he had changed. He wasn't the same man who had left them all those years ago. He seemed different now, more concerned with his image, with impressing people, with his new life. At first, Emily had been excited. She missed her father, and the thought of a new family, new gifts, and fancy vacations caught her attention. Angela saw the way Emily's eyes lit up when Daniel sent her expensive gifts. Angela could feel the distance growing between them as Emily spent more time with her father and Tasha, going on vacations to places Angela couldn't even dream of. Emily began to see the world differently, a world Angela couldn't afford to offer her. Slowly, she stopped coming home after school. She spent weekends at Daniel's, lost in a world of wealth and ease. Angela didn't say anything. She couldn't. She knew it would hurt too much to hold Emily back. She thought, maybe one day, Emily would come back to her. Maybe, when the shine of wealth and newness wore off, she would remember her mother. Angela quietly let go, stepping back into the shadows, hoping Emily would realize that she was still there, still the one who loved her through everything. Now, Angela lived alone in a modest apartment. She was retired from nursing, but the years of work had left their mark. She was tired, not in the way she used to be, but in a deeper sense. Tired of struggling, tired of hoping for things to change. Her apartment was small, just a one-bedroom, but it was hers. She had enough to get by, though it was never easy. She had learned to live simply, to find comfort in the little things. Even so, she wasn't angry. She wasn't bitter. She just missed her daughter. Emily was about to get married, and Angela had been making a small wedding gift, something she knew would mean more than any store-bought item. The quilt was her way of saying, "I'm here. I still care. I'm still your mother." As Angela ran her fingers over the quilt, she thought about how far things had come and how far they had fallen. She still remembered the little girl who had held her hand, who had kissed her goodnight every night. Emily had grown up, and Angela had let her go, but it didn't make it any easier. Now, with the wedding coming up, Angela was just another person in the background of Emily's life. She knew that, but she still loved her, always. Angela sat on the edge of her bed, holding the wedding invitation in her lap. Her fingers touched the corner of the card, tracing the printed names again. Emily Sanders, daughter of Daniel and Tasha Sanders. Her name wasn't there. She picked up her phone and stared at the screen. After a moment, she took a deep breath and dialed Emily's number. "Hi, Mom," Emily answered, sounding cheerful. "Hi, sweetheart," Angela said softly. "I got the invitation today." "Oh, great. I'm glad it arrived," Emily replied. Angela hesitated. "I noticed something. My name isn't on it." There was a short silence. Emily spoke in a light tone. "You're still invited, Mom. You know how things are. Tasha and Dad took care of everything for the wedding. They handled the guest list and the printing." Angela nodded, even though Emily couldn't see her. "But I saw that you wrote my name on the envelope." With a pen, Emily gave a small laugh. "Yeah, I didn't want you to feel left out. I made sure to write your name." Angela's voice stayed calm, but her words were heavy. "Why didn't you put my name inside with the others?" Another pause. Then Emily said, "It's not a big deal. I just didn't want to make things uncomfortable. Tasha's been really involved lately. She's helped me a lot. She's kind of taken the role of a mom during all this." Angela sat very still. Her chest felt tight. Emily kept going. "It's been a busy time, you know. Everything's moving so fast. I didn't mean anything by it." Angela's mouth was dry. She wanted to say more, but the words wouldn't come. Emily's voice became quieter. "Mum, are you okay?" Angela finally answered. "Yes, I'm still here. I have to get back to some things," Emily said. "I'll call you soon, okay?" "Okay," Angela whispered. The call ended. Angela slowly lowered the phone onto her lap. The quiet of the room wrapped around her. She looked down at the invitation again. Her name, written in pen, looked small and out of place. Her eyes filled with tears. One slipped down her cheek, then another. She didn't move to wipe them away. Her hands stayed still, resting on her knees. She stared ahead, not really seeing anything. The tears kept coming, slow and silent. She felt something inside her break, not loudly, not all at once, but gently, like a thread, finally letting go after being pulled too tight for too long. The wedding invitation lay on the kitchen table for days before any decision was made. It sat there like a weight, pulling at every thought. There was no excitement, no rush to find a dress, just silence and a slow ache. Friends came by, bringing tea and gentle advice. "You don't have to go," one said, shaking her head. "She didn't even include your name. That says a lot." Another added, "She chose them. Let her be with them." But the answer came quietly, almost like a whisper. "That's my daughter." No one argued after that. The morning of the wedding was grey and still. Clothes were laid out the night before. A simple blue dress, shoes polished clean, and a small box wrapped with care. Inside the box was a quilt, hand-stitched over many late evenings. Every piece of fabric held a memory. The venue sparkled with flowers and soft music. People moved about in laughter and light conversation. All eyes turned when a woman walked in alone, dressed modestly but neat. No one waved, no one greeted. She found her seat quietly, far from the center of attention. Whispers floated in the air, compliments about Tasha's dress, her speech, her glow. Guests pointed and smiled. "Emily's mom looks stunning," someone said, nodding toward Tasha. The correction never came. When the ceremony began, the bride walked down the aisle, beautiful and bright, every step sure. Pride filled the room. Hands clapped, eyes welled up. But not once did her eyes look toward the back corner where someone sat alone, hands folded tightly, heart full of memories. After the vows and cheers, guests moved into the reception hall. Tables were full, music loud, glasses raised. A small table near the wall held only one person. The box with the quilt sat beside the chair, unopened. When Tasha stood to give her speech, the room hushed again. "I'm so proud of Emily," she said, her voice strong. "She's grown into someone truly special. It's been such a joy to help guide her." Thanks were given to friends, family, supporters, but one name never left her lips. At that small table, quiet hands rested on the gift. Eyes stayed down. Nothing was said. Nothing needed to be. The past began to stir gently. Images of cold nights and warm bowls of soup, laughter in a tiny kitchen, bandages on scraped knees, a first backpack bought with money saved from skipped lunches, evenings walking home alone in the rain, a pawnshop receipt still tucked away in a drawer. No medals had ever been handed out for those days. No speeches, no applause. At one point, there was an attempt to be seen. A walk across the room, slow and steady, led to where the bride stood surrounded by voices and faces. "Congratulations," came the quiet voice. "Oh, hi Mom," was the reply. A quick glance, a nervous smile. "Thanks. Everything's been a bit busy." No warmth, no real eye contact, just enough to move past the moment. "I'll head out now," came the final words, soft and full of quiet understanding. "Okay, thanks for coming." No one watched the departure. No heads turned. The music played on. The path outside was lit with soft lights. The box with the quilt was held close, the ribbon still tied. The night air was cool, brushing gently against tired skin. Each step away from the building felt both heavy and freeing. No spotlight, no crowd, no farewell, just the sound of footsteps and a heart quietly breaking, yet still beating. Behind her, laughter continued. Ahead, only the quiet road waited, and still she walked on. A few quiet weeks passed. The wedding was over. The photos were posted online, filled with smiles and bright colors. Everyone looked happy, but inside, something didn't feel right anymore. One morning, a letter was dropped into a mailbox. Not to Emily, but to Tasha. It wasn't angry. The handwriting was neat, the paper plain. The words were short, but full of meaning. "You replace my name, but you'll never replace my sacrifices." Tasha sat in her kitchen, reading it again and again. Her hands didn't shake, but something inside her did. The words stayed with her, even after she folded the letter and placed it on the counter. That evening, she showed it to Daniel. He read it in silence, then looked up with a frown. "She's right," he said. "What do you mean?" Tasha asked, trying to sound calm. Daniel let out a slow breath. "What Emily did, leaving her mum's name off the invitation. That wasn't okay. I should have stopped it. We both should have." The next day, Daniel sat down with Emily. She was going through wedding photos, smiling at first. But when she saw her father's serious face, her smile faded. "We need to talk," he said. Emily nodded slowly. "Is something wrong?" Daniel placed the letter in front of her. Emily read it once, then looked up confused. "Why did she send this to Tasha?" "Because you left her out," he said. "You left out the woman who raised you, who gave up everything for you. And then you let people believe Tasha was your only mother." Emily looked down. "I didn't mean to hurt her." "But you did." The words cut deep. The wedding glow began to dim. Something cracked inside her. That night, Emily opened an old wooden box she kept under her bed. Inside were letters, yellow with age. Letters her mother had written her when she was little. Notes slipped into lunchboxes. Birthday cards filled with warm messages. Letters from college care packages. She started to read them, one by one. Each word brought back a memory, warm hugs, stories before bed, the smell of home-cooked meals, the sound of her mother's laugh. Tears began to fall. One letter said, "Even when I'm tired, I'll always make time for you. You are my heart." Another read, "I know things are hard now, but I believe in you. I'll never stop." She cried harder. The weight of what she had done sank in fully now. The wedding had been beautiful, but something was missing, something real. The next morning, Emily stood outside a small apartment door, her eyes red and swollen. In her hands, she held one of the old letters and a single white flower. She knocked gently. No answer. She waited, then knocked again. Still nothing. She lowered her head, ready to turn away. But then she heard a sound. The lock clicked once, then again. Slowly, the door opened just a few inches. Her mother stood there, her eyes tired but alert. Emily couldn't speak right away. She just held out the letter. "I found this," she whispered, "and I remembered." Angela looked at the letter, then at her daughter. She didn't move, didn't speak. "I'm sorry," Emily said, tears spilling over. "I was wrong. I thought love meant money, speeches, big parties. I forgot the small things. I forgot who was there when no one else was." The door didn't open wider, but it also didn't close. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," Emily said, "but I hope one day you'll let me try to make things right." There was silence between them, just the sounds of cars passing in the distance, a bird calling from a nearby tree. Angela's fingers gripped the edge of the door. She didn't reach out, but she didn't turn away. Emily took a small step back, giving space. She didn't push, didn't beg. She waited. Then slowly, Angela opened the door a little more. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full. She looked at the letter again, then back at her daughter. Not a word passed her lips, but she stepped aside, and that small step said everything. Emily sat across the table, hands folded, eyes full of regret. "I thought love was about who gave the most," she said softly, "but I forgot who gave first." Angela didn't reply right away. She just looked at her daughter, her face calm but unreadable. Her silence wasn't cold. It was full of meaning. There were no loud words, no anger, just a stillness that said everything. Emily didn't try to fill the silence. She simply reached across the table and touched her mother's hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. That evening ended quietly, but something had shifted. A few days later, Emily called again. "I was wondering if you'd come over for dinner sometime," she said. "Nothing fancy, just us." Angela paused, then said, "All right." It wasn't a full repair, but it was a start. The dinner was simple: warm food, soft music, and slow conversation. They didn't talk much about the wedding or the past. Instead, they spoke about the little things: books, memories, funny stories from childhood. For the first time in a long while, they both smiled. Later, Angela told a friend about the dinner. The friend, kind and thoughtful, suggested something else. "Have you ever thought about therapy?" she asked. "Not because something is wrong, but because you've been through a lot. Maybe it's time to think about you." Angela thought about it for a few days. Then she made an appointment. The first few sessions felt strange, talking about herself, her feelings, her past. It was all new, but slowly she began to feel lighter. The heaviness she'd carried for years started to soften. She also picked up a notebook. Every morning, she wrote in it thoughts, memories, feelings. At first, just a few lines. Later, full pages. She was finding herself again, not just as a mother, but as Angela. One afternoon, Daniel stopped by unannounced. He stood awkwardly at the door. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry," he began, "for everything, for leaving, for not standing up for you at the wedding." Angela looked at him kindly but firmly. "You don't need to explain," she said. "I've already made peace with it." Daniel nodded slowly. He wanted to say more, but she gave him a small smile that said, "This conversation is over," and that was enough. Angela didn't hold on to bitterness, but she didn't open the door to old pain either. With time, she started volunteering at a local shelter. Twice a week, she helped serve meals, listened to stories, offered comfort. It felt right, giving in a way that didn't empty her, but filled her. She didn't need thanks or praise. Just being there was enough. People at the shelter grew to know her by name. They smiled when she walked in. She brought calm with her, like a quiet light. At home, the notebook grew thicker, her handwriting neater, her heart a little stronger. The love she gave as a mother would always be part of her, but now she was more than that. She was a woman who had faced hurt and still chose to keep going, still chose to care, not just for others, but for herself too. The package arrived on a quiet afternoon. Angela wasn't expecting anything, but there it was, a small box, neatly wrapped, her name written carefully on the label. She opened it slowly, not in a rush. Inside was a wedding photo book. The cover was soft and white, with gold letters that read, "Emily and James." She sat down at the kitchen table, put on her glasses, and turned the first page. Photo after photo showed the wedding day, the smiles, the dress, the flowers. Emily looked happy. James looked proud. Friends laughed. People danced. Angela wasn't in many of the pictures, just a few in the background, standing alone. She kept flipping pages. Near the end, something caught her eye. A blank page, but not really blank. There in Emily's handwriting was a note. "To my real mother." No title, No speech could ever capture what you've given me. You are the reason I stand here today. I see it now. I'm sorry it took me so long." Angela stared at the words. Her hand gently touched the page. She didn't rush to the end. She just sat with the note, her eyes softening. A small smile appeared on her face. Then, slowly, tears began to fall. Not fast, just quietly. She closed the book, holding it close for a moment. Then she placed it beside her journal on the table. She looked out the window. The sky was clear, the trees still, and in a soft voice, just for herself, she whispered, "I'm enough." Do you think Emily truly understood what her mother went through? Or was it too little, too late? Should Angela have forgiven her or kept her distance? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy emotional stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new one.